you were to take me deep sea diving and you could confirm and be like, yeah, no, this is a safe area to do it, I could see myself doing it. But I'm not going to be like, oh boy, and then just jump into the fucking middle of the ocean for no
revealed
reason.
massive marble.
Releasing the source code so they can do at least
But
something with them.
so you do what most reasonable people would do. Got it.
Well, yeah, but Hockey was asking if I had like a fear, like if I had any deep seated fears of the ocean, which is not true.
Is someone watching a video over your stream? Yeah, probably on Robin's end.
Yeah, it's Cupcake. Will fix that.
Just giving you shit. However, we are going to be watching a video. And,
What?
so, to clarify real quick, the person who does this video is someone named Jacob Geller. They are a video essayist on YouTube, and I personally really enjoy their stuff. That's wrong. Yeah, we'll just stick to this. They do a lot of videos. Let me actually go over here real quick. So you can... I didn't click that. So you can kind of see what they do. This is Jacob Geller's YouTube channel.
I watched a little bit of their stuff.
Yeah, with me.
Dead Space 2 does real. I have also seen a little bit of their stuff on my own.
3 specific kinds of terrors.
I have seen that video.
Can it be done perfectly? I was watching this with Skull. Fear of big things underwater. Reasonable. Every Zelda is the darkest Zelda.
I have seen that one.
What is the
Both
point
by
of
myself and
taking
with you.
apart a body? Perfect moments in bad movies. He does a lot of stuff. Like a lot of stuff. Time for Kisper. Oh no. But yeah. This one's also really fun. Maybe I might showcase this one for a stream. Because it's a weird introspection on some of the stuff that The Simpsons does do with their like intros and such, which can get crazy. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about my fascination with the Infinity, and also my fascination with airborne and voidborne burials. And yeah, I just think
And space in general.
Yeah, space in general.
In Susanna Clarke's novel Piranesi,
Oh.
the titular character's world is not our own. There are no plants in the world, apart from the seaweed and lilies that grow in the
so
ocean.
I'll do Subnautica when I
15
find
people who've
somebody
ever
who actually
lived,
knows how to
So
fucking
only
play the
2
game.
are
I'll play
currently
it with
drawing
them.
Died
breath.
in D&D.
There
Do you want to be
are
chucked in
innumerable statues,
one of
some
those bottomless bags?
No, that's not how those work. Also, let me rewind.
You can throw
this a
any
little bit.
object in there as just not living things, and as soon as you die, your body becomes an object that as rules as written. So
Oh my god,
could.
Robin. I love you, buddy. Jesus
What?
Christ.
You said you wanted a void burial. It's a void. It's
No,
like it would
that's
work.
not the same of what I was talking about. You know what? Shut the fuck up and watch the video. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Also, Subnautica wins Skull. Oh yeah, he answered that. I own
I did answer
Subnautica
that.
too.
Oh shit. We play Subnautica together.
I don't know how to set that up.
Oh, me neither.
But
So we're not playing Subnautica. Subnautica never.
I want this book. Piranesi
Let's
by
steal it.
Susanna Clarke.
our own. There are no plants in the world, apart from the seaweed and lilies that grow in the ocean. There are
Let me know
just
if it's too
15
quiet,
people
chat.
who have ever lived, although only
Okay.
2 are currently drawing breath. There are innumerable statues, some massive, some modest, all distinct. And all of this, the people, the ocean, the statues, reside in the house. Endlessly tall, endlessly long, impossibly deep. In Jorge Luis Borges' story, The Library of Babel, the narrator's world is not our own. Although there must be a limit to the library filled with every possible combination of letters that can fit within 410 pages, such a limit defies comprehension, and indeed the narrator rejects such a limit. The library, they say, is unlimited, cyclical. There is no end to the shelves of the world and no beginning. When a person dies in the Library of Babel, their body is lifted over the protective railing and allowed to plummet for eternity between floors. An airborne burial with no worry of ever meeting the ground. In William Cheer's Manifold Garden, the player's world is not our own. A recursive universe, the columns, hallways, and monuments of the impossible spaces only terminate temporarily, if they do at all. Each floor is no different than its ceiling, each wall as meaningful or less as any other. Manifold Garden's dizzying heights are the same as its depths, each identical permutation of architecture as important or transient as the last. Although we affect its levels and move its geometry, we ourselves are nothing. Shapeless, voiceless, shadowless. Each world so different from our own. Each one an attempt to reckon with the infinite. Each impossible to leave behind.
Yeah, so just to let you guys know, this kind of shit lives rent-free in my head all the time. These kind of questions.
That's what games
theories.
basically insane.
Yeah.
Basically.
Alex Piranesi gives the reader a gift by not forefronting the story for probably half of its already modest length. Instead, it allows us to luxuriate in the infinite house's grandeur. Pages are spent describing the clouds that linger in the upper floors of the house, the surface detailings of one of the endless statues that line the walls, the way the tides of the lower floors rise up the massive stairways and crash against the wide walls and windows. Piranesi's most electric
wallpaper?
moments are ones of sublime description.
Oh, wait.
A hall where the floor has fallen away and revealed massive
In the
marble
video.
figures.
Right.
Jacob Geller's wallpaper? It is really cool looking.
Half submerged in the
I
ocean
like
below,
the
or a
feel
moonlit
of it.
room with an entire wall of intertwined carvings, gazing up at the moon. The protagonist of the story understands unquestioningly that the house that is his world is infinite. He knows that there are flights of stairs much higher than he could ever reach, secrets hidden below the violent tides, and what he does with this understanding isn't to despair or resign himself to a familiar corner, but to embrace the gift that is a world that will never stop showing him new things. This, too, is the tone of Borges' Library of Babel. The language of that story isn't clinical nor fearful, but reverent. To wander the stacks of bookshelves forever is nothing less than a holy task. And when those spaces and that duty is communicated to us, it feels that the author imparts a little of that sacred duty onto us as well. It feels, after spending enough time in these fictional spaces, that we, too, have an obligation to the infinite. I know. I'm starting big, and we're only going to get bigger here. We're talking about infinity. There's no time for on-ramping. We gotta jump right into it. Piranesi, the book title and the character name, are both a direct reference to Giovanni Battista Piranesi, an Italian architect/archaeologist/artist of the 18th century.
Speaking of which, I've actually gone through and looked at some of this dude's stuff. You would be surprised how much of modern art and other things are heavily inspired by this dude, and how many times you've accidentally fallen onto his art without knowing who it is.
Oh no, I've heard of this guy before.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people have no idea what happened with this dude, and it's insane. It's so much so that several books, novels, video games, sometimes even subjects in movies have been directly inspired by what he went through in the later half of his life. And it's super fascinating.
I said architect first, but in truth, Giovanni was only ever responsible for one completed building, the restoration of the Santa Maria del Priorato Church in 1766. A look at the facade gives a hint of his architectural proclivities. Marble, the implication of strong columns, actually pilasters in this case, the Roman style he was obsessed with, highlighted with the Venetian eccentricities that reflected his background. Of course, a single church is hardly the reason for Piranesi's centuries-long legacy. His most famous architectural works are a little more heightened.
Oh, hold up, it's ad.
Oh, okay. I'll rewind it a little bit. That way,
Like 2 more just to be safe. There we go.
This is a really fun topic. In personal notes, videos like this are actually what help inspire me to write about the topics in my own personal story, because part of a lot of the stuff I want to write about has to do with the shape of infinity, with it being in relation to time. I've told you about this, Skull, but I haven't really told chat or many other people about it, but I genuinely like the thought experiment of writing a story about the concept of infinity, the shape of infinity in relation to time and its relation to beings that are basically immortal for all intents and purposes, what it would do to their psyche and shit like that, which is why part of the story I want to write about is having them go from one planet to another. To those of you who don't know, the time period in which it would take for humanity to fly a spaceship from one livable planet, specifically Earth, to another would basically be closer to infinity in our lifetime than it wouldn't be. And I really, really want to toy with that subject as a story bit. Also, welcome back, Flair. Now, I decided to talk about my personal writing proclivities and thought ideas that go through my head like ad nauseum while I'm like doing dishes and shit like that. Do you already have some pieces typed out? Not typed out, but written down in a journal. I have a timeline, characters, ideas, feelings, so on and so forth, like written down into what I basically call Project Godhome, because the name of the spaceship is called Godhome. And I'm just slowly piecing together pieces, writing down ideas and
concepts you want to explore.
And trying to piece together which ones work best with each other for each different character's personal growth. Because part of it is each individual character in the story is technically a god of a concept. However, they come into godhood in various different means, and they all experience their godhood and the experience of infinity in different ways. Like the main character, the captain, as I've dubbed him, experiences infinity of time broken up. He is always where he needs to be exactly when he needs to be there. So anytime he goes from point A to point B, he's literally jumping forward in time to the position and place he needs to be, thus giving him this weird, broken experience of how the world is. Whereas the character I have just dubbed the First, for ironic reasons, has to painstakingly live out that time without it being broken up in any way, shape, or form. They have to sit through the spaceship going from point A to point B, completely unable to get away from it. It's a bit torturous to the characters, yes, but it's a really deeply, like, for me at least, compelling, like, thought experiment that I just can't help but come back to whenever I'm, like, sitting alone or doing chores and mindlessly thinking about it, because my brain just immediately gets sucked back into it. Who doesn't torture their characters? Exactly. If you want them to grow, if you want their purpose in the story to be meaningful, unfortunately, you do have to torture them. And that even goes... What'd you say, Robin?
That makes me that brings up a thing that I've thought about in the past. It's like, what if one of your OCs, or whatever you want to call them, was to suddenly come to life? How fucking mad at you would they be?
Oh,
It's like,
absolutely
you
pissed.
gave me all this trauma, all this pain. Like, fuck you. You'd be like, but you're my baby. I love you. Please love me. No, fuck you.
Depends on when
I'd be dead.
Depends on when you yoink them.
What's really weird is you are not the first person to question that, Robin. There are several authors, movie makers, and, like, this is a question that has been asked by people in the creative sphere for years. And pretty much every single one of them has come to the conclusion either that the character themselves would be past the point of wanting revenge, or they would kill them on the spot.
Like I said, for me, it depends.
I feel like the captain wouldn't kill me, but if it was the First or the Lord of Cold, both of them would murder me on the spot.
Insta-gib.
If it was the creature I was dealing with, it would torture me for infinity.
Yay.
Especially the creature. Especially the main villain of the story. The creature would have fun with toying with me across every possible, conceivable way in general. And the terrifying part about the creature, which I don't want to get too much in that one because that's not fully done, the moment it came into birth, it became a near universal constant, not only through time, backwards through time, but across multiverses and realities.
So you just invented the concept of evil. Got it.
Well, yes, technically, but here's the fun part. The creature itself wasn't evil. It just embodied evil. I don't want to spoil anything, but there are reasons as to why the creature decides to commit atrocious acts. All right. Let us continue the video.
Yep.
I could sit here for a long time and talk about my story, but
actually Pilasters in this case, the Roman style he was obsessed with, highlighted with the Venetian eccentricities that reflected his background. Of course, a single church is hardly the reason for Piranesi's centuries-long legacy. His most famous architectural works are a little more heightened.
God, I love these art pieces.
Giovanni Battista Piranesi's legacy is not in stone or marble or brick, but in engravings. Pieces that he carved into copper plates from which multiple versions of the same print could be pulled. And it was in these engravings that Piranesi created worlds. His most famous works are likely Carceri d'Invenzione, or Imaginary Prisons, created in 1742 when he was 22 years old. French poet Victor Hugo captures them as such.
Le noir cerveau de Piranèse est une béante fournaise où se mêlent l'arche et le ciel. l'escalier, la tour, la colonne, où croît, monte, s'enfle et bouillonne l'incommensurable Babel.
Piranesi's engravings tend to do this to people. As Jennifer Long wrote, the Piranesi effect takes a number of forms. It can be something to do with a feeling of unease and ambiguity, of things being out of place or out of time. It is also a sensation of glorious indigestion, a piling up or layering of parts which far exceeds what is required to make a whole. And Imaginary Prisons is the pinnacle of this feeling. Where does one even start? Is it with their style? Because, despite Piranesi's devotion to Rome, there are no Roman prisons that look like this. As an engraver, he proved himself with the utmost adherence to real structures, documenting monuments and ruins with scientific accuracy. From where, then, did these prisons come from? Or do we start with the humans? They should be whom we relate to most in the pictures, but dwarfed as they are by their surroundings, empathy with their utter insignificance is terrifying. Although these are clearly built environments, the idea of any person in this series actually building them is laughable. The machines of construction and torture that litter the prisons don't offer any sense of empowerment. There is no practical use in these tools, just a reinforced sense of powerlessness. No, the only place we can start is with the scale. Arches that stretch back miles, clouded by smoke and hanging chains, and sometimes the barest hint of sky. And it is here that I have to turn to Marguerite Yourcenar, author of the seminal piece of writing on La Carcerie d'Invenzione, her essay title ripped from the words of Victor Hugo, The Dark Brain of Piranesi. The legend of Piranesi's prisons is they were composed while the artist was sick with malaria, his normally regimented mind scattered by the illness. But, as Yourcenar points out, assigning these spaces to an addled mind does them a grave disservice.
Fever did not open for Piranesi the doors to a world of mental confusion, but to realms dangerously vaster and more complex than the young engraver had hitherto lived in. The dream of a builder drunk on pure volumes, pure space.
That line right there stuck in my head for years after watching this video. The dream of a builder drunk on pure volumes, pure space. Which is kind of fitting if you're going to write a story or even grapple with the idea of infinity. This one most perfectly encapsulates it for me.
It is Piranesi's architectural rigor that we have to thank for the hallucinatory effect of the prisons, because it's the subconscious dimensions of these places that make them so unsettling. Where artists like Escher might delight in spelling out his impossibilities, Piranesi incorporates them seamlessly. Foreground and background elements connect despite irreconcilable differences in space. The engravings have multiple vanishing points. Pieces of construction are simultaneously on top of and below each other. Again, Yourcenar.
For these figures lie on a gallery at the back of the hall, to have such infinitesimal dimensions, this balcony would have to be separated from us by hours of walking. This discrepancy, which suffices to prove that this somber place is only a dream, fills us with an anguish, analogous to that of an inchworm trying to measure the walls of a cathedral.
Could there be a more fitting space for Clarke to have pulled her infinite world from and named it after? Could Piranesi's endless halls and innumerable statues be birthed from a more evocative source, where the people and sculptures are near indistinguishable? The Library of Babel, too, shares a spirit with the prisons, each seemingly endless spaces that hide their impossibility of categorization behind a superficially ordered facade. Even more directly linked to Piranesi are the etchings of Eric de Mazière. His endless shelves and volumes directly reference Borges, but there is no doubt in my mind that Piranesi is as much to thank. The hero of the prisons is space, Yourcenar writes, but hero seems far too grounded a concept for what we have here. A hero is eminently conceivable, while the spaces of Le Carceri d'Invenzione are anything but. It's a later line in her essay that more thoroughly communicates the feeling of space in Piranesi's work, a reference to the dizzying heights that each figure walks upon in the prisons.
Such nights didn't seem to notice the arbors on the brink of the abyss.
William Shear's game Manifold Garden asks us to plunge into an abyss over and over, in a way I haven't quite experienced in a video game before, or in any other sense, for that matter. There are a lot of buzzwords one could use to sell the concept of Manifold Garden: recursive universe, shiftable gravity, block, cube, puzzle game, but I think it's equally interesting to talk about what it doesn't have. There are no characters in Manifold Garden, no dialogue, no implication of a world outside of the structures. There's never a moment where you catch your reflection in a window or a shadow that reveals your form. It is, as Yourcenar puts it, the dream of a builder drunk on pure volumes, pure space. One aspect that kind of makes showing off Manifold Garden difficult is it's actually much more disorienting to watch than it is to play. In video, the game is near chaotic. Floors and ceilings suddenly swap places, endless falls terminate in unexpected geometry. The rules are almost impossible to track. But playing it doesn't feel that way, at least not after a brief adjustment period. While Manifold Garden remains a challenging puzzle experience, the speed with which I adjusted to this infinite space was kind of intoxicating. One of the earliest realizations you have is that falling is far faster than walking, and since you can swing the gravity around at will, you can cover immense distances by simply plummeting towards them. And if you miss your target, it absolutely does not matter, because the next level down in this abyss is just as good. The aesthetic and the gameplay are inextricably linked here. The voids of white and black that make up the skybox are also tunnels you can travel through to literally land above or below yourself. The intricacy of the architecture lends itself to sudden gravity changes, each column a potential ceiling or platform to stand on. And yet, the aesthetic also weaves in the legacy of the infinite through time. Is it any surprise that the dark mind of Piranesi, place where the arc and the sky mingle, lives within this game? Manifold Garden does have a story of sorts. It's abstract, wordless. It ends gloriously. The best thing about playing it, though, is that it doesn't have to convince you of the need to explore this space. While Borges and Clarke spent pages writing about the divine duty of exploring the library, and Piranesi put humans on the edges of his impossible worlds, Manifold Garden let me have just a taste of that infinity firsthand, and it turns out, yup, when presented with something as beautiful and begging to be explored as this infinity, there doesn't need to be an external reason to live in it. The space is enough. But when the space is infinite, we're confronted with the other limiting factor of existence. Piranesi, Clarke, Shear, Borges all created infinities, but time is an abyss just as much as space. The last time I felt confronted with this was... well, don't laugh. It was Legos. In the video Making a Google to One Reduction with LEGO Gears, the Brick Experiment channel creates an existential crisis using just under 200 gears and screws. As the first minute of the video shows, a motor rotating 370 times per minute can be connected to a series of gears to create a functional clock, a larger gear that rotates 1 time per minute. And then there's no single moment when this clock becomes an abyss. Okay, actually, maybe this one. It's just a piece-by-piece construction, each gear manageable in its own right, but when put together becomes something inconceivable. The final gear to complete a rotation in this clock will happen every this many years. Essentially a 5 followed by 91 zeros. And this is what? The surface of a smallish coffee table? Add a few gears and you'll shoot past the heat death of the universe. And this is terrifying on 2 levels. 1, how easy it is to make a device that exceeds any scale of time we could possibly comprehend, and 2, that it's no closer to infinity than a single gear. Like the narrator's life lived in the Library of Babel or Piranesi's quest to document the halls of his world, the quest for the infinite is impossible. But that doesn't mean it's without meaning.
How can you understand a thing as stupid as our existence?
Asked Roman Opalka, a French-Polish painter and overall very blunt man.
Maybe that sounds too brutal, but this existence makes no sense. It is nonsense, and this nonsense is my work.
Opalka lived to be 79 years old. He spent 46 of those years attempting to paint infinity. How does one paint infinity? Piranesi and Cheer might have one answer. Opalka had another.
Just a little brief pause. If any of you are interested in more on this topic, definitely go read the story about Opalka. The man was definitely crazy, but we'll get into that in a moment. His story is crazy interesting because his idea of writing infinity actually is very somber and beautiful in a weird way. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself and a little bit ahead of the video, but you'll see what I mean when he actually shows what it kind of looks like, because it's, as the video mentioned before, a glorious moment of indigestion.
On a jet black canvas with white paint with the smallest size brush available.
Imagine if
And you start
if our whole existence was just a big burp from God. Just a
Shut
big...
up! Shut up! Oh no.
I mean, maybe yours is. Mine's not.
We exist only because God lifted his leg and shat himself. We're that cornholio on the side of the poo.
1. That's where he started, at least. In 1965, the number 1, accompanied by the whisper of Yedin. What followed is 2, Dva, and so on. What staggers me about Opalka is he knew, before he painted the very first number, that he would work on this project for the rest of his life. And he did. Every single day, he would paint the numbers. Tens, hundreds, thousands, millions. Alongside painting each number, he'd murmur its name, just loud enough for the tape next to him to record it. The project is achingly physical. 233 canvases covered in writing so small it looks at different magnifications like it's totally gray, like countless little currents, or, ironically, like one number, with millions and millions of digits. It too has been weathered by time. Opalka cannot find the recording on which he murmured 1 million. A monumental achievement, but simultaneously just one drop out of a sea I think we're used, when it comes to large numbers, with quickening growth, compound interest or time lapses, or the gears of a clock to almost infinity. When you draw infinity, there's visual space for implication. When you describe it, you can skip to the point using the leaps and bounds of language. But there are no shortcuts if you decide to write it down one at a time. And the finish line, you know, will leave the project incomplete. Opalka described himself and his work as being towards death. It was the way he conceptualized his project. It was how he subverted the dread of never truly finishing his work. Like following a thread through time and space. As Piranesi helped Marguerite Yourcenar find the infinite, Yourcenar's writings brought solace to Opalka. At the end of one of her short stories, a painter and his assistant disappear into a painted world of their own, avoiding and accepting death in equal measure. They disappear past the horizon of the painting, into an unknowable world.
I walk further into the landscape. The horizon goes on with me.
Opalka's work itself ages before our eyes. Although he started with a black canvas, to each subsequent one he added 1% more white, a growing together of the canvas and the numbers until they were barely distinguishable. He made his calculation based on the life expectancy of the average Polish man. When he died at 79, he had outlived that expectancy by 4 years, painting white on white every day. His aging is explicit thanks to the photographs of himself he took in front of each completed canvas, but the photographs are almost redundant. In the brightening of each painting, the loss of contrast, I see Opalka walking further into the landscape, taking the horizon with him. I feel the weight of the project, content in its inevitable incompleteness. And two, I see Borges, who grew blind over the course of his life, vividly living among the shelves of his library. I see Piranesi waking from a fever, having created spaces that could not and will never exist.
I cannot know when I will die. I know that I will die, but the moment when it happens is so infinite. In this sense, we are eternal.
And that is another quote that has stuck with me for forever. Because, and as people may or may not know by now, I am an optimistic nihilist. What I mean by that is, I genuinely believe that we all only have one life. And that is the beauty of it. There are beautiful things in the world regardless of what darkness there is. You don't know when you're going to die. So, like he said, that moment in which you do is, in a sense, infinite. Because it's unknowable. There's no point reckoning with something that you can't reckon with to begin with. Quote unquote. And yet, as humans, we still try to. In a sense, humanity itself fighting an eternal thought battle. So on and so forth. I'll just press play.
The single most important aspect of each of these artworks, stories, worlds, is that the infinite cannot be reached. And it's knowing that from the point of origin that gives each of them their astounding power. The impossibility of reading every story in the Library of Babel, documenting every statue, reaching every level of the abyss. Giovanni Battista Piranesi once said that if he was commissioned to design a new universe, he would be mad enough to undertake it. A divine task, yet one that he's eager to attempt. One reading of this is absurdly vain, the arrogance of Piranesi to suggest that he could create everything. But through his work, and through the work of each artist that's touched this subject matter, we can see that this declaration, this dedication, isn't self-deification. Because Piranesi, like Opalka, like them all, knows he'd fall short of the infinite. But it's in the pursuit that they found meaning. a conversation with the eternal.
And that was The Shape of Infinity. One of, if not
Yay!
one of my favorite YouTube videos to ever have been created. Thank you, Jake Geller, for giving me the opportunity to spend the rest of my life thinking about this shit. You know, at the beginning when they're talking about that airborne burial, where, you know, you basically, your form of a grave is to fall for eternity. It's the same kind of feeling that I have when I say I would like to die in outer space, because it kind of is the same thing. An airborne burial in which there is no guarantee that you will ever land. And the idea of it is both deeply terrifying, but also very, very beautiful, in my opinion. To other people, they might find that so terrifying that the mere idea discourages them from ever thinking about it. But for me, I sit here and just think and think and think on the idea. But anyways, discussion time.
Oh,
I wonder
sure.
if this is where the whole saying, like, to stare in the abyss long enough and the abyss will stare back. Those people obviously just saw something. Like, how are you gonna do the same thing every day like that for the rest of your life? Like, something possessed them.
Something did. They had a like Jacob Geller said, they had a conversation with the infinite. And it does provide meaning, especially for humans, specifically, you know, with our inability to face death or reckon with it and other things. Like, it's deeply interesting to me. It's a very, very curious topic. Call of the Void, whatever you want to call it.
I'm now imagining the infinite being like just some creature with no concept of time or reality or anything. He's just talking to some dude, and then all of a sudden it stops, and he's like, "How fucking rude! I've been talking for like the last 30 centuries. You haven't said anything."
I mean, it is technically a one-sided conversation, but it is still one you can find meaning through. I mean, Opalka's entire existence is a good example of that. When he showed that, you know, the canvases pressed together like how Opalka wanted, showed like an infinite stream of numbers or one number constantly flowing. I kind of imagine infinity in a way sort of like that. And then at times, I believe it is nothing like that at all.
I don't know. For me, I imagine it like the ocean. You know how you can stare far enough out into the ocean that you yourself see an endpoint, but you know that there is no endpoint. It just keeps going.
The horizon keeps going.
That's how I visualize
Yeah, but
it.
that's the curvature of the Earth.
Listen here, you.
We're gonna find curvatures in your head.
I should hit you with that meme I sent in my general. Listen here, you little shit.
Is it the one with the heavy wearing the bird head?
No. I made my own version of it, which is just. Hold on, let me go ahead and
Send it to him directly.
Okay. Where is Robin?
I'm right here. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh,
Pretty
shit,
good.
you're
Thanks
up.
for asking.
You're a little
So
shit.
surprised you're here.
pictures.
I don't understand. Like I tell you guys, like I'm generally free Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're like mad because I'm gone on the work days, and they like scream at me at the chat. I feel so abused. I don't want to be with you guys.
Mauled. Seethe.
Did you see this chat?
No.
They can't see because we're talking.
Are they
Can't see
blind?
words.
They lost their
Can't see
vision?
words.
You stole their eyeballs?
Well, perhaps the Infinity did. After
Okay.
all, it goes on into the horizon. So yeah,
Like, maybe they just close their eyes.
Listen here.
for those of you in chat, how do you feel about that video? How do you feel about the idea of me agonizing while doing dishes about this shit?
Just be like, thanks for the existential dread, Gan.
Thanks, I hate it. No, like I said, these kind of topics are deeply, and I mean deeply, ingrained into my brain by this point. Like I can't help but think about them. They're cyclical in nature, and they just cling into the back of my mind like a disease that just refuses to go away. It just sits there and simmers all the time.
I don't know. Could be the tism.
Sounds
in me, but,
pretty great.
It could be the
the idea
tism.
of just something.
It could be.
Well, for me,
Well, I mean,
it could be.
this kind of stuff is fascinating to listen to in general. This is a similar to what I play
No, this
in the
kinda
background
stuff-
while cleaning.
Uh,
Same. And even if I'm not listening to something like this, I'm listening to... It's probably part of the reason as to why I like very ambient music. And not exactly the biggest fan of music in which dictates to me through words as to what I should feel from it. Because I can listen to a piece of music and imagine millions of different scenarios or feelings or emotions based on what instruments are being played at a specific time, or what like 10-second clip of a song is playing in that moment.
I just realized what this stuff reminded me of. When I was little, my grandpa would listen to like this one TV show that had batshit crazy, like alien conspiracy type bullshit. He didn't believe in any of it, but he would like to imagine like what if this stuff was real? Like how crazy would shit actually be if it was? It feels kind of like that.
Fair. That's for my partner. I've got to have lyrics, though my partner has audio processing issues, so they normally can't understand the lyrics. No, that's fair. No, that's fair. I'm weird when it comes to that. Like there are songs that I enjoy with lyrics. Vicarious by Tool is a great example. I didn't realize this until recently, but what's the song? I have it on my phone. I can just look it up. When It Lands by Rainbow Kitten Surprise or some shit. Songs like that are deeply interesting to me as well. But for the most part, most of my playlist, like a good 70% of it, is very ambient music. Or video game music that's like either calm down or try and elicit a very specific emotion. I'll never force, people to listen to video game music, unless, of course, I'm going through it, in which case... Sorry, I'm going through and finding ones that I like. Skull and Void have unfortunately been at the end of that a few times while I'm going through a video game playlist, but
That's alright.
at least I listen to entertaining shit. At least it's not...
You're also not a pretentious Reddit user.
No, everybody has their own opinions on their music, and they should. It's an art form. if someone were to tell you there is a specific way in which you are supposed to ingest a form of media, they're stupid and wrong. Because anything can have infinite meanings. Of course, that's my personal opinion, but I think it's the correct one. But at the end of the day, you know, a lot of humanity, at least on an individual level, is trying to reckon with that portion of themselves. And as they should, because it's part of living. You know, you gotta fill in the pieces of your life with those things. And, you know, fill it in with the... Oh. Well, shit.
But you know, all I was saying earlier is that could be the tism, could just be because of how I mentally comprehend the concept of infinity. But I find it kind of relaxing.
For me, it is. There are times in which it isn't. Of course, those are like manic episodes, and that specifically has to deal with numbers. I don't know what it is. Every time I go into like a manic moment where my anxiety hits really hard, it's always it's always an expansion of numbers. It always starts small, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until I have to go out. Like, I have to throw on some shoes. I have to go outside. I have to take a long walk in the cold to get it out of my head. But that's like the only time that the conversation with infinity gets to me. It always has to do with numbers specifically, which is probably why I'm so fascinated with Opalka's artwork, because he has the exact opposite problem. At least in my opinion. Of course, my opinion is subjective.
For me, it starts getting weird if I start going like, hey, what if there is an infinite space and you weren't alone in it? Because then, at potentially any opportunity, at any time, you could bump into anything.
No, that is actually kind of terrifying. I don't know. The idea of infinity is deeply intriguing to me. And even not just like the shape of it, but even like time as an infinity, or like he mentioned before when he was like, don't laugh at me, it was when I was thinking about Legos. The idea that humanity can create something that long outlives the heat death of the universe is deeply terrifying to me. Like, deeply, deeply terrifying. I don't know what it is about it specifically, but it's just... I feel like... Go ahead.
Sorry. Because it brings up a very fucked up question to answer, which would be, one, it makes you wonder what's over the horizon. Is there anything past the heat death of the universe?
Is there?
And if so, would the things that we have made that would survive, would they survive?
Possibly. That's the fucked up part about it. You never know. Because it's past the heat death. Of course, this is going into like string theory and shit like that, or big bounce, big rebound. That's not what it's called, but that's just what I refer to it as. It is a theory in which scientists have been theorizing on. I don't know if it's more common now, if they've moved on to a different theory, but the idea that the universe is always in a constant state of expansion and then implosion before another expansion before another implosion, and it just does that in a cyclical cycle over and over and over.
I imagine it always is like a rubber band.
Yeah, that's kind of how they describe it as, you know.
Stretch it out so far, and then whoop, it snaps back, and then boom.
And
That
then it
is the Big
restarts.
Bang.
It's deeply, deeply interesting to me. Like I'm not much of a reader when it comes to a lot of this stuff, but when it gets stuck in my head like this, I will go out of my way to research this kind of stuff. Not because, you know, it fills me with any sort of fulfillment, but just because it's like a gnawing itch at the back of the mind. I have to know. I have to try and reckon with it, which almost always I just fucking can't.
No, because you're asking the same questions humans have been asking for fucking ever, and will continue to ask forever.
I do hope that humanity finds a way to live past the heat death of the universe. There are theories as to how we could do it. Of course, this would be getting into more space stuff, which is another one of my little proclivities of knowledge, because yeah, I really enjoy that shit. As a matter of fact, you know what, I have another video for us to watch.
Man loves space more than when I did, when space was my hyperfixation.
So that was Jacob Geller. Just to properly credit the people who made the video, Jacob Geller is awesome. You should check out some more of their art,
cool stuff.
because I do genuinely believe their videos are an art form, and you should totally check out more of it. And then perhaps on another stream, we will check out another one of his videos if it comes up in the topic of the video game that we're playing, or just from the random banter that we talk about. However, there is another channel. Kurzgesagt. And they are very interesting, aside from, I still haven't seen this video, I need to. It's probably just another weird mind pull bullshittery.
It's most likely probably some like, oh, yeah, whatever you perceive it to be, because only you can confirm or deny what is real. Blah, blah, other bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Kurzgesagt.
That's the only way I can make sense of it without it just being brain rot.
Yeah. Kurzgesagt is a very interesting channel. They try and do a lot with theoretical stuff, and their videos are not 100% truthful. They, as right here, we lied to you and we'll do it again. Because at some point when it comes to theoretical science, you have to remove logic from what you know, because everything is theoretical. Hell, most of the science that we have on black holes specifically are done with the theoretical black hole that doesn't spin, which doesn't exist. That just plain right out the gate does not exist. Where's the video? Where's the video? That's a good video. Dyson Sphere. Here we go. This is ultimately my favorite. Yeah, no, ants are ridiculously insane. If there's any species on Earth that could rival humanity if they ever gained like full-blown sentience like humans do, it would be ants. And we would lose. Just hands down, immediately. Sorry. Sorry, those of you who think you could beat up an entire colony of ants. You can't. If they were out to kill you, you just couldn't.
Well, if they were smart as us, sure, but if they're just ants...
That's what he was saying. Saying if ants were as smart as people, and then a bunch of them decided, fuck you in specific, you would not make that. You would not survive.
This video,
Ants would outnumber us humans greatly, so
innumerably. There is no way humanity would ever win. So my personal belief is
you just have to scream democracy enough.
your social behavior in the don't know that word order is fascinating topic on its own. It really is. If I'm guessing we're talking about specifically the behavior and socialization of ant colonies specifically. It's very, from what I've read on how ant colonies specifically, I think it's like the most common one in, ants, bees, and wasps. That specific group of insects. Okay. Yeah, no. When it comes to specifically ants, it's terrifying and beautiful. So, when it comes to the discussion of space topics and what I personally believe humanity should work forward to, which means jack and shit, this is it. This is what I believe humanity should focus on wholeheartedly. Like, every human should be focusing
Human
on
history
this.
is told by the energy we use. At first, we had to use our muscles, then we learned to control fire. We industrialized the world using coal and oil, and entered the atomic age when we learned how to split a nucleus. At each step, we increased our energy harvest to a scale never seen before and advanced as a species. Currently, we're slowly transitioning to renewables, and if we're lucky, fusion energy will become viable in the future. As humanity progresses further, if we don't destroy ourselves or our habitat, we will likely gain complete control of our planet's resources. At that stage, we'll probably begin to look outwards for new places to expand into. But space is hard, and establishing a serious human presence in the solar system will require ungodly amounts of energy. Luckily, we know where to find it. The sun, the ultimate source of energy. A furnace 100 quintillion times more powerful than our most efficient nuclear reactor. It shines with the energy of 1 trillion nuclear bombs per second. So how do we get this energy? Not some of it, all of it.
I just wish we were in space.
If we want to collect
short
the most
end
energy
of it.
physically possible, we'll have to build the largest, most ambitious structure in the universe.
You want to be
The
technical.
Dyson Sphere.
Shut
A
up.
megastructure that encompasses a whole star
know what I
to
mean.
capture its power output.
I know what you
For an
mean.
intelligent species, building a Dyson Sphere is a technological leap on a par with the discovery of fire for our ancestors. The transition from a planetary species to an interstellar species. It would usher in an age of exploration and expansion on a scale we can barely imagine. So, what would it look like? A solid shell enveloping the sun is probably not the way to go. A large rigid body like that would be vulnerable to impacts, possibly shattering. It would be liable to drift and could crash straight into the sun. A more viable design for a Dyson Sphere might be a Dyson Swarm, an enormous set of orbiting panels that collect the sun's power and beam it elsewhere. Such a swarm would give humanity basically unlimited energy. But building it won't be easy. The sun is very big, so we need a lot of satellites. If each satellite is a square kilometer, we'd need around 30 quadrillion to surround the sun. Even if they're built as lightly as possible, we need about 100 quintillion tons of material. And then we need the energy to actually put the parts together and deliver them to their positions around the sun. On top of all that, we need to have a permanent infrastructure set up in space to start building. Let's assume for the purposes of this video that our descendants will take care of that and want to create the megastructure. we can sort the challenges into 3 main categories: materials, design, and energy. To get the vast amounts of raw materials required for our Dyson swarm, we'll have to largely disassemble a whole planet. Of the planets available, Mercury is the best candidate. It's the closest to the Sun and very metal-rich. Close to the Sun also means less moving stuff around, and Mercury has no atmosphere and only about a third of the surface gravity of Earth, making it comparatively easy to launch material into space. Next, we should consider the design of our swarm. Simpler is better. Conventional solar panels are far too intricate and short-lived. Our satellites need to operate without repairs or intervention for astronomically long times, and they need to be cheap to produce. They're most likely going to be enormous mirrors, which refocus sunlight to central collecting stations like in concentrated solar power on Earth. To build and launch them efficiently, they must be incredibly light, made of little more than polished metal foil bound to some supports. And last, we need the energy to build and launch the swarm itself. Taking apart a planet and launching things into space requires an enormous amount of energy. For example, if we used all the fossil fuels and uranium on Earth and we were perfectly efficient, we could only launch as much mass as Mount Everest into space. A rather meager accomplishment compared to planetary disassembly. To get the energy needed to build a Dyson sphere, it's almost as if you're going to need the power output of a Dyson sphere. But that's okay. There's plenty of sunlight to be had on Mercury, so let's get to work. Humans are expensive to keep alive and are very sensitive to the environment, so we'd want to automate as much as possible. Ideally, we'd have a small crew of controllers who oversee an army of autonomous machines doing the actual work. There are 4 major pieces of technology required: solar collectors, miners, refiners, and launch equipment. The solar collectors are going to give us the energy we need to disassemble the planet. To start, maybe we deploy something like 1 square kilometer of them, either as mirrors or as traditional solar panels. They'll provide the energy to run our miners, which strip mine the surface of the planet, and our refiners, which extract valuable elements and fabricate them into our swarm satellites. To get them into space, we need a creative and efficient solution. Rockets are too expensive and difficult to deorbit and reuse.
So how do we get past that? We'll build a giant fuck-off railgun.
Instead, we'll want to use a sort of railgun, a long electromagnetic track which launches our satellites at high speeds. Our swarm satellites would be packed tight for launch, unfurling like an enormous origami once in orbit. From this point, we can take advantage of exponential growth, using the energy of the existing parts of the swarm to build more infrastructure on Mercury and launch new panels faster and faster. Each panel provides the energy to build another. Those 2 work together to build the next 2. 4 become 8, 8 becomes 16, and so on. Within just about 60 doubling times, the Sun would be completely surrounded by solar panels. And this can happen quickly. If a square kilometer of solar collectors takes a month to build, we could be done in a decade, if only our infrastructure on the planet's surface can keep up with the quickly growing budget of energy. Even collecting 1% of the Sun's energy is an unbelievable change in our species' energy budget. We could create the infrastructure to beam basically unlimited amounts of energy around the solar system for all sorts of projects. Colonies on other worlds, terraforming planets, constructing more megastructures, or even traveling to other stars. It could be the start of an interstellar civilization. Based on physics alone, this is not just possible, but easy. It's such a simple process and such a necessary step for any species to expand beyond their home planet that many astronomers think there are probably Dyson spheres already out there in the Milky Way. We haven't spotted any yet, but they could be there. It's far from certain that humanity will ever get to this point. Our attention is too often focused on short-term political gains and conflicts that will not matter in the long run. But if we survive the challenges we've set ourselves, we could potentially become the first species in the universe to create a structure with the scope of a star. If we do it, the only limitation left will be our own imagination.
Genuinely believe that humanity should be focusing on that. Actually. Yes, it's impossible. but oftentimes the best dreams are the impossible ones. Just infinite energy. Just a trip to the sun away.
Well, more like a couple hundred trips to the sun.
Hey,
We're pretty
man.
much gonna do to the sun what that kid did to the Giving Tree.
No, because the sun would basically do nothing to the sun. Even if we were to harvest like 1% of the sun, like in terms of solar energy, it would do basically nothing to the sun. It wouldn't heat up. It wouldn't like suddenly go supernova. There would be, as far as theoretical science believes, it would basically just make it more stable, making it last longer, which means we could live on Earth longer, which, as a civilization that has only ever lived on Earth, is a great thing. Of course, we would have to, prevent the Earth from going out any other way, like nuclear war, regular war, global warming, ice age, shit like that. But it's really interesting.
Zombie apocalypse.
Stop the apocalypse. But the interesting part about that is we would have the energy to do so simply by having a Dyson swarm. Of course, we'd also need a few more things like a stellar engine and shit like that. But that's getting into the territory of moving an entire solar system, which is incredibly possible thanks to theoretical science, and is another deeply interesting idea in terms of space-based theoretical science. Not only is it super possible, the only thing we would need to do is move the sun. The sun would just pull everything with it without sending it out of whack. As a matter of fact, the sun does that anyways. Most people don't know this, but for every 1 million years, our solar system dives up and down, in and out of the Milky Way. Like a weird waving motion. And it does that over such an extreme period of time that we just don't notice. So, theoretically, while we can't move the sun sideways and shit, we could move it up and down as much as we want with no catastrophic effects. Because of how gravity works with the sun, it would just super glue keep everything where it is without disrupting rotation, around the sun. Or not rotate. You know what I mean. Space! Space
and shit, bro.
It's so cool! It's so fucking cool! Infinity is cool! Space is cool! Theoretical science is cool! You guys should read more theoretical science! Or watch more
just go
theoretical
watch Young
science.
Sheldon.
No, don't hate yourself.
That's not theoretical science.
Oh, man. Man, oh man, oh man. Well, I don't really have much more for a stream. Oh. Channel. Kurzgesagt, in a nutshell. Let me go ahead and click on their channel. If you like shit like that, and you like just learning random, useless shit, Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. Go subscribe to them. Enjoy their videos. I thoroughly enjoy their videos. It's amazing what they do. Do I think they are a set-in-stone channel? No, no one is. But if you like getting on these topics and just listening to them or, enjoying the theoretical side of science, great channel. Perfect channel for that, in my opinion. They have so much shit. Bionuclear bombs, all of history, 4.5 billion years in an hour, the last thing to ever happen in the universe. What if you nuked the moon? Shit like that. They just do what they want, and it's very, very cathartic. It's a very pleasant time.
What would happen if you went to the moon?
It would be terrible. So, from what
Mhm,
I
I'd
remember,
imagine.
the most it would do would be basically nothing but form a crater and leave radioactive waste all over the moon. In the worst possible scenario, you have now showered Earth in millions and millions of radioactive rocks that are now just plummeting for a very unhealthy period of time. So,
And that's
Probably
like
have some weird
considerable
effect
effect.
on the gravitational shit too. So
nope,
Yup.
nope. Literally no effect on the gravity, because launching a nuke at the moon would basically be like tapping it. It would be like poking it. It do basically nothing aside from cause us a lot of problems. So don't nuke the moon to any nation.
So what you're
or the
saying
universe.
is the moon is stronger than Japan.
Oh no. No, what I'm saying is you should nuke the moon twice. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Nobody. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We're doing double tap
Wow.
rules, huh? Make sure the moon doesn't turn into a zombie.
Look, man. I'm just saying. Flare. Yikes. Look, I saw the volleyball in the air. I had to go for the spike. Okay.
I thought I was bad.
I'm making shitty sandcastles, by the way, in this hypothetical. I have nothing to do with this conversation.
He has
Never have,
nothing
never
to do
will.
with it.
Yep.
Oh,
If you're
God.
writing a twit longer right now, do not include my name. I was not a part of this.
It was
Oh.
secretly his idea all along.
It was
Yeah,
never my idea.
So to any nations out there who think, you know what, it'd be cool to nuke the moon, don't.
Jokes aside, nukes are bad. Don't use them.
Nope. We should.
I love
just
Metal Gear Solid 5
fucking-
Phantom Pain.
We should have taken all those and gotten rid of them in the most safest way possible, but the nations aren't going to do that.
Oh yeah, they're like a deterrent. So I have them and you have them and we both won't use them, right? Right. It's stupid reasoning, I know, but it's what they're going with.
It is stupid reasoning, but they don't care because they're a nation, not a person.
Yeah.
They don't follow the rules in the same way.
Yeah.
In fact, it was actually once proposed to the president that the nuclear launch codes be ingrained into one specific person's heart. And so in order to launch the nuke, the president would actually have to kill that person in order to get access to the codes.
You know, that's interesting.
Because that's a really good deterrent from using nuclear weapons.
You want the codes? Kill them.
And it's an obviously really good way to have that in your mind that you're doing that to a potentially uncountable number of people.
Mm-hmm.
Instantaneously.
You'd have to grapple with the fact that you'd have to kill someone in the first place to kill way more.
Yep.
Unironically, that's kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about that.
Unfortunately, it wasn't put into place. But
Well,
Unfortunately, are you gonna volunteer to have it tattooed to your heart?
yes.
It's not tattooed. It's literally placed into your body.
If
There
they
you go.
decided today that they were going to do so. Hi, my name is Ganondorf, the Azure King man. You have to fucking kill me for that nuke.
I would also be totally going with it. Yeah.
I'm not going down without a fight, asshole.
I'm sorry, is that a threat against the president? Quick, shoot him.
This is all in theory, of course.
For legal reasons, this is a joke.
For legal reasons, this is just a theory. A
This is
life theory.
This is a hypothetical conversation being told in a hypothetical universe in which this proposed idea was put into practice.
Yup.
Hmm.
Ah. Man, oh man. I don't really got much more to say for today's stream. I think this was a solid one. I enjoyed Cavern of Dreams, and I also enjoyed taking you guys along on this little exploration of knowledge.
And I enjoyed pissing you off.
I know you do. You do that just instinctually.
Like half the time I don't even mean it. Like I'll just say a true statement and then you just get
That's what
massively pissed off. I'm like,
Yes.
what the fuck?
A
Yes,
true
that's what
statement.
it instinctually means.
Do it without worry.
People-
Whoa, why is it lagging like crazy? Hold on.
People don't instinctually do things on purpose.
No?
Sometimes like I instinctually go out to eat.
No, you're willingly doing.
No, I'm pretty sure eating is like instinct.
No, you are willingly and purposefully and consciously stepping outside to go to your vehicle, assuming you're driving there, transporting yourself to your food collection place of desire, and then eating.
But isn't
Said
the whole
food once you get
concept
it.
of living like an instinct, and then thus stuff like sleeping, drinking, and eating would all be part of instinct? Because
No,
You-
I'm talking about like if I raised my fist like I was gonna punch you and you flinch. That's instinct.
I almost feel like I should move back over to the
Reflex.
live streaming screen because I feel a rage
Yes.
movement coming on. Eating as an act is not instinctual, it is a learned behavior.
Thank you, Flair.
Exactly what I was going to say.
And Flair's the smart person here.
well, when the baby is just screaming there, wailing its arms, wanting food, it's
No,
doing that
that is
because it was caught.
That is instinctual because the baby doesn't have learned experiences yet, Robin.
Well, yeah, you learn to go get food when you're hungry, but the hunger itself is instinct.
The hunger, not the
hunger is
action.
instinct, not you eating.
You are pre-wired to have hunger response. The eating part is not the same. Exactly.
Flair knows. Flair understands.
Ah,
I was being silly, goofy, dumb again.
he's bringing my rage
Is that
back
really
at
that
the end.
surprising at this point for you guys?
No, it's not. I know he does it instinctually.
I'm going back out. It's time for dinner. Told you that earlier.
Oh,
I'm
didn't
not,
use that.
well,
That's why I came here
I
and
am
you
far
said,
less
"Dinner,
sure
dinner's
on the
ready."
semantics of this particular conversation, but everything I know of like eating, sleeping, and even reproducing, it's just all instinct.
No, the
no,
desire.
the desires to do those things are instinct. The act of doing in response to those things is not instinct.
Then again, most ADHD folks kind of forget that hunger part until they absolutely need it. I
Dang.
am a person that does that. It's oftentimes the breakfast one, and I get on to people for that, like Skull and Void, like, oh, we haven't eaten yet. You're supposed to eat in the first hour of the morning, guys. And then I'll be over here sitting in bed for like 2 hours, like, do I really want to get up? Oh, cereal! Right, I need to eat something.
Do stuff like that when I'm hyper focusing on a new game I like whether it be Minecraft or Hades 2 or something, and or even back when I used to read a lot, I would read through like fucking 12 chapters of like an actual real book, and just my belly would be just grumbling away, and I don't feel nothing.
Yeah, because you're too focused.
Mhm.
That is an ADHD thing.
You're
That
like
is-
us.
Welcome to the club, Robin.
Yay! I'm part of something bigger than me.
Here, we have cookies, but I ate them all. So you'll have
Damn.
to wait for the next batch.
Do you promise to save me one?
I promise there will be cookies.
Okay.
I cannot promise for how long. or when they will show up. But I promise the cookies will be on a plate on the table for a period of time.
All right.
Even a
Well, this is,
nanosecond is technically a period of time, so.
You're just furthering my my point. Anyway,
Anyway,
I'm agreeing
Well,
with you. I am saying
let's
that's
I know,
what.
I know. The drive, it isn't all the same either. Example, if eating is paired with a sense of discomfort or pain, then over time the drive will actually diminish. That makes that hunger response something that can be manipulated by external factors. Yep.
correct.
A relative of mine actually had problems with that for a while because they wouldn't eat properly and therefore ended up with issues, specifically knowing when they were hungry. And a few of us had to basically be like, no, go eat right now. You don't understand. You haven't eaten in like 17 hours. Go eat now. But they weren't hungry. Usually that starts to become a thing from what I know. Usually you start noticing that become a thing when people who do that will eat food after waiting for extended periods of time, and then the food they eat the same time will make them like physically sick. Same, stomach basically shrunk too, so I'm having to fix that stuff now, as you should, player.
And I hope it is swift and simple for you.
Yep. Alright,
All right.
no more stalling. You go get your food, I'll raid out and send everybody on their way.
Perfect. All right.
That's
Oh,
all,
don't say anything
folks.
stupid. Also, goodbye, everybody. Hope you all have a great rest of your
Bye.
day.
Something stupid.
I'm gone now.
He's gone.
Bye.
You can't hear him.
I can't hear nothing no more. I'm death. Destroyer of worlds.
Yay.
At least you can't destroy infinity. Alright, alright. Enough of my gabbing and bullshit. I appreciate you all showing up today. I will be doing more of Cavern of Dreams. Yeah, Cavern of Dreams tomorrow. We'll probably finish the game tomorrow and then either move on to a different game or move back over to the Just Chatting section and talk about more concepts and stuff. It depends on really what's brought up in the stream, because I do have other games I can play and I should be playing. In terms of the Tears of the Kingdom playthrough, I did not get any practice in last week after that stream, so we will be returning to that eventually after I've had a bit more practice and I have a better idea of how the fuck I'm supposed to live through all that bullshit. In terms of the Kingsfield 2 playthrough, I still need to watch a walkthrough, and all the ones I've been finding are speed runs, and I'm not trying to speed run it. I'm actually trying to show the game because it is enjoyable. It is a bit of a pain in the ass, but hey, it's an old PS1 game. That kind of comes with that's kind of par of the course with games that were pushing the medium forward back in the day. Anyways, fuck it, let's raid on out to Silverstorm.
Bye-bye.
I'm not quite done yet. Hold on.
Bye-bye.
I'll kick your ass out of here and just send you to the general. You know what? Say goodbye, Robin. You're getting
Goodbye, Robin.
You're getting sent to the no-no zone.
This is my no swear. No, don't touch me.
You know, I had a feeling that was coming. Bye, Robin.
Bye, chat. Bye, again.
Can you? Thank you. I'm gonna flip shit if my mouse continues double clicking. Get out of here! Alright, he's gone. But yeah. Love this stream. Thank you all for showing up. I'm sending you to Silverstorm, and yeah. Enjoy some Hollow Knight over there, one of my favorite games. I actually refer to it as my my depression game, specifically because, you know, it helps get me out of the depressive rut. Don't know why. It's a very depressing game theming wise, but it's very beautiful. Very beautiful. Yeah. I'll see you guys around the same time tomorrow. I start at 6. I'll only be doing Monday and Tuesday this week. I have plans on Thursday. And we'll see what we can do tomorrow. Yeah. Guess that's all I have to say. Thank you all for watching. Do take care of yourself, eat well, and get some good rest. I'll see you all tomorrow. Good night.